I'm Ellis Martin. Join me for a conversation with Mr. Alex Hanley, the CEO of Lithium Universe, trading as LU7 on the ASX. Led by lithium pioneer Iggy Tan and the Dream Team, Lithium Universe has a bold vision of building a lithium resource and refinery facility in Canada that will provide the critical materials for batteries, helping the world's transition towards cleaner energy. Today we're joining Mr. Hanley at the Energy Transition Metals Summit in Washington, D.C. Alex, welcome to the program here at the Energy Transition Metals Summit in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Alice. Yeah, pleasure to be here, mate.
You're from Queensland, I understand. How did you get into this business?
Yeah, Mackay, Queensland. I'm what you'd call a far north Queenslander, Alice. East Coast. Obviously, the office for us is in Perth at the current time. I got into this business. I'm a mechanical engineer, right? I started my time in the mining, manufacturing, and oil and gas industry, and slowly made my way to the private sector.
How did you wind up in the lithium space? How did you apply your skills there? What was the connection?
I'm not only a mechanical engineer, but project management specialist, right? I did an MBA when I was working out west in Mount Isa, and from there I actually started working for a gold exploration company in West Africa. So we listed that company called Polymetals back in 2021 from memory, and then that was my first, venture into the ASX public market arena, and from there I was brought on board within the early days of Lithium Universe, and we built the board up and got Iggy on board, and the rest was history.
So you attracted Iggy somehow. Is that what happened?
I'm not sure how. We'll have to go back and talk to the big man. But yeah, I was good friends with the large shareholder of Lithium Universe.
And then that dream team, more or less, is responsible, along with you, for a lot of the success of Lithium Universe now and in the future. You're building one of the first, if not the first, correct me if I'm wrong, lithium refineries in the province of Quebec, which is also one of our sponsors of this program.
Yeah, that's right. There is an existing facility in the Abitibi region now owned by Sayona. The lithium carbonate plant, I think when it was commissioned back in 2012, 2013, it only produced about 100 tonne of lithium carbonate. There was what we believe major design flaws and operational issues with that plant, and that hasn't been operational for the last decade. What we'll probably lay claim to is having the first lithium carbonate plant to produce over 100 tonnes, I think is probably what we'll lay claim to, Alice.
And that's going to happen again in 28, we hope, we believe. What drew you to Quebec?
I get this question quite a lot. If you could build the refinery anywhere, where would you put it? And still to this day, I would say Quebec, and especially where we have positioned ourselves at Becancour. Becancour, it has access to very cost-effective hydroelectricity through Hydro-Quebec. We've got highway access, we've got rail access, but also port access. So we have the ability at Becancour to bring in spodumene via bulk, via the St. Lawrence from the Atlantic region, right? But whether we're getting that from Brazil, South Africa, West Africa, or anywhere in the world, we can bring it in via boat, right? Similar to what they're doing in the merchant refineries in China at the moment. That's another good reason. The other reason, obviously, we're on the doorstep of James Bay, which is what we believe the greatest and the most promising emerging lithium district in the world from a tier 1 perspective. And then probably the last but not least is obviously the very strong government support, right? Whether that be Invest Canada from a federal level or the provincial level with Investissement Quebec. What we've seen is very strong support for similar type of plants, whether that be GM POSCO, the Ford SK Pro, or even the Northvolt project at St. Basil. Now we're seeing very strong not only support but also financial support, which is most important for these big projects.
Where do you suppose you're going to get that feedstock initially? Is it going to be Brazil, somewhere in Latin America, or there's so much in Canada, right where you're at, where you've selected to be?
We're talking to all the companies in James Bay. There's about 40 different companies looking for spodumene. There's currently what we'd call probably 8 or 9 discrete projects in Quebec that have cumulatively about 500 million tonne of resource at plus 1%. This is obviously if we can get feedstock from James Bay itself, whether from some of the big players that we've all heard about, or if we're getting it from seaborne via the Atlantic. As you say, in the next 12 months there's going to be another lithium mine in the Ichinga region in Brazil coming online. There's going to be more in the next few years by the time we're into production in 2028. Similarly, we're seeing very good things in Ghana, very good things in Mali at the moment in West Africa, and also a very burgeoning lithium district also in Zimbabwe and South Africa. We think, and that's really the next focus point for the company in the next 12 months, is lining up that supply and that feedstock.
How are you going to get that feedstock when I'm sure the Chinese are not going to stop competing?
What's that dynamic look like?
Yeah, it came up multiple times today at this conference, right? Whether it was a supply chain security panel, I think they called it the missing middle, which was a panel focused on what we're doing, what they call the midstream in North America, what we call the downstream in Australia. The midstream is currently the big missing piece within the United States and Canada. Now, from a supply chain perspective, it's currently earmarked as a matter of national security, right? Decoupling from China and Chinese converters who currently probably convert around 90% of the world's spodumene. It's going to be, let's say, a syndicated approach where we team up with an OEM, whether that be someone like GM or Tesla, and we go essentially find a resource that we can have complete offtake on.
Do you become a platform refinery, if you will? Can you be taken out by one of these automakers, or will you remain solely independent and help everyone, more or less?
I think the strategy for the company is not to be taken out. While we complete the definitive feasibility study, which is currently underway, we can then geographically, let's say, cookie cutter that across North America, Europe, anywhere where we see fit. So we have the ability to actually geographically diversify the company with different refineries across North America. So it's probably a bit more of a, let's say, a horizontal growth story, as well as the potential to go upstream to the mine site as well.
So this is the first refinery for Lithium Universe then?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, Iggy and Jingwan and Pat have been involved in both the Greenbushes lithium carbonate plant and then the Jiangsu lithium carbonate plant. But this will be the inaugural lithium carbonate plant for Lithium Universe, but definitely not the last.
Any particular territory or domain that would be ideal? Does it have to be the East Coast? I know infrastructure is important. Where else would you be looking at potentially in the world where the jurisdiction is economic and wonderful as Quebec?
We've got the capacity at Becancour to put 3 trains or 3 refineries to begin with. And so we see cumulatively with those 3 trains around 50,000 tonne per annum. So that's still very shy of that 850,000 tonne per annum target, which is currently a forecast demand out of North American gigafactories and cathode factories. There's a lot of expansion opportunity here in North America. Let's not forget that. We've been approached from also different countries, whether that be in the UK, similarly with Saudi, and potentially down in South America as well with some of those hard rock projects.
You mentioned Saudi Arabia, and I know that they have a mandate now to invest in this sector. Are you going to be a part of that? How are you cashed up to do all that you need to do in the future?
That's the beauty of the company that we have and the people that we have on board, right? We can make this company what we need it, and there's a very strong conversion capacity gap outside of China that's very significant. I just spent a week in Germany and Switzerland. We've just had a few of my colleagues also go through Singapore last week. There's going to be a significant amount of institutional financing that's required, and hence the reason why we're going through all of the introductions now. So when we do have the definitive feasibility study done in the coming months, we can go back for more firm discussions.
The beginnings of Lithium Universe and also your sister company, Altec Batteries, happened there in Southeast Asia and Oceania, and that expertise being so close to the end users has been a way to facilitate what you're doing in Canada and North America. It couldn't be done any other way without that expertise, I'm thinking, and that particular dream team that you've tapped into.
Oh no, definitely. And I think that's a huge point of difference. Not only do we have a team that's done it before, we have a team that can actually build a converter in North America, right? Now, that's not easily said than done, where we've seen a few issues currently, obviously all over the news in Australia at the moment, with big production or chemical producing companies like Albemarle and Tianqi having a few issues with commissioning their plant in Australia. So that's why we built the team that we have. It's a team of operators. It's a team that have been there, done it before. Essentially, none of the guys are here for learning, and that makes my job a lot easier.
It sounds like you've got everything you need. Therefore, my final question to you is, why are you here at this summit?
Yeah, no, good question. This is actually my first time to the United States.
Wait a minute. In life?
In life, yeah. And let's just say it was actually the first time in my life I got a beef tartare from a restaurant down the road here, and it was the first time in my life that it was actually served on a hash brown. And I was like, I'm in America. It's my first time here. The reason why we're here is to really first engage with a lot of the departments that are stationed here in Washington, right? And that's what was quite interesting during this conference, was the amount of US involvement in the critical mineral space. We've heard a lot about the dire need to boost supply chains and all of that rhetoric and narrative, but hearing that and talking one-on-one with some of these people that are embedded within, whether it's the Department of Energy or the Defense, or even separate entities that are just built up to build out the supply chain in North America. That's obviously a big tailwind that where we have at the moment is having a solution to the current midstream problem here in the US.
What do you think about permitting issues here in the U.S., legislative issues? There's, of course, the Inflation Reduction Act initiative and the push for green energy and technology. But in your opinion, can things get done? Are they getting done, or is that still going to take some time?
One thing that I always say is that we need to be realistic about expectations, and I think that's very important. And I think more and more from the discussions that I had over the last 2 days that the people that are making these decisions on a federal level, they understand the reality now, right? There was a lot of lip service probably in the past, but there's now a concerted effort to boost the lithium and the critical mineral supply chains across the board. So yeah, I think it's been very positive response, not only for me in talking to a lot of these department agencies, but also them seeing initiatives from, let's say, friendly foreign direct investment companies like ourselves.
I have to ask you this question. It's unrelated to everything we've been talking about, but I'm really curious because I've never met an Australian in this country who's never been here before, especially in our business. What's the same here between Australia and the U.S.? Because I have my own opinion. And what's dramatically different?
Operationally, Ellis, or culturally?
Whatever you want to say.
I haven't operated here yet. Obviously, the conference itself has been probably a bit of a silo, you could say. I think culturally it's quite interesting. Everyone's very loud on the street, and yeah, there's definitely a stronger energy, let's say, that I felt, an intensity in the US in comparison to probably what's known as the laid-back culture and lifestyle of Australia.
Alex Hanley, thank you so much for visiting with me today here at the Energy Summit. It's been a real pleasure to meet you in person. Welcome to the U.S., and I hope that all your dreams and wishes come true for you, both personally and professionally.
Thank you, Alice. A pleasure, mate.
I've been chatting with Mr. Alex Hanley, CEO of Lithium Universe, trading as LU7 on the ASX. Dig a little deeper. Go to the company's website, lithiumuniverse.com. This is the Ellis Martin Report.
Subscribe to the Ellis Martin newsletter. It's free. Go to ellismartinreport.com and fill out the quick and easy pop-up form.